My name is Rob Arnold. I'm the executive director here at Poets House, and I just want to thank you again for coming out on this rainy, kind of gray, weird May day. We had kind of early summer last week, it felt like, and now suddenly it feels like March again. But I'm glad that you're all here to warm the space. I do want to say that this is a challenging time for arts nonprofits in general. This is a challenging time for the literary community. We have two wonderful poets, both published by amazing small presses, out there doing the hard work of bringing poets into the world. And please consider finding a way to support them by buying books today. Also, I want to say that we are also a struggling nonprofit here at Poets House, and we are open to the public 5 days a week. And we have 80,000 books of poetry, each a gift from the community to the community. We don't have an acquisitions budget. People have donated the entire collection upstairs, and it's free and open to the public. It's kind of the mission work of the organization beyond building community in spaces like this. So please do consider making a gift to Poets House on your way out. You are also able to buy tickets to a really interesting and cool event that I know some of you have attended in the past. I hope to see you again there on June 2nd, which is our annual walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. It's a poetry walk. We start at City Hall Plaza. We read poetry about New York City. We all walk en masse, 200 people. It's an amazingly glorious human movement for the sake of poetry, walking across the Brooklyn Bridge, reading poetry along the way. We do a reading again at Jane's Carousel on the Brooklyn side, and then we end with a big, wonderful dinner. So it's a lot of fun. And if you haven't done it, you should really experience it. And if you are interested in coming and maybe not going to the dinner, you're certainly welcome to walk along. But we do encourage you to buy a ticket. We're very close to our goal, which is exciting, but the need is steep this year in general. So we need to actually overperform our goal in order to make up for some of the other federal funding losses for the organization. So please consider. And again, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to bring up my colleague, Nick, who's going to be the proper host for the evening. So please give it up for Nick Buffin.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Poets House. I'm the operations manager here. We're so excited to celebrate new collections from Elaine Equi, Joanna Fuhrman. Woo, 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 woo. This event is one of several in our New Works reading series celebrating recently published poetry publications. Elaine Equi's new book, Out of the Blank, from Coffee House Press, moves through familial relationships, time, and the body with her signature wit and curiosity. Joanna Fuhrman confronts the foreign landscape of the online world in Data Mind from Northwestern University Press, while remixing the traditional trope with her signature comic surrealist flair. We'll have readings from each poet, followed by a short conversation, and if there's time, a little Q&A session. My pleasure to introduce Joanna Fuhrman. She's the assistant teaching professor at creative writing at Rutgers University and author of 7 books of poetry, most recently Data Mind. Fuhrman's poems have appeared in Best American Poetry, the Pushcart Prize Anthology, Academy of American Poets, Poem a Day, and the Slow Down podcast. Please give a warm welcome to Joanna Fuhrman.
Hi, it's wonderful to see people on this gray day. I'm going to start by reading some newer poems, and then I will read from the new book, which came out in the fall, but it's still, new in poetry time. Okay. And there's a screen here because there's some memes in the book I'll share, and also I'm going to show a video at some point. Obeyed. The night the fascist wins the election, you find yourself swimming in a glass of milk. You aren't yourself, or you think to yourself that you are a different kind of yourself. It's peaceful, and you notice other people enjoying the calm of the liquid retreat. So you wonder if this is why they let the body snatchers take their places, why you let one take your place, let yourself shrink to the size of a bubble in a glass of milk. In the Milky Resort, we clink highballs, watch professionals in tennis whites smile broadly. You smile broadly, or you imagine yourself smiling broadly. We listen for news outside the glass, hear nothing. Denise Duhamel has a new chapbook where every poem is like a poem in which I blah, blah, blah. So I thought I'd write my own. It's called Poem in Which I Become a Horror Flick. This time, I'm the ratty-haired girl. Sorry, let me start again. I haven't read this before. Poem in which I become a horror flick. This time, I'm the ratty-haired doll, bolted awake by the nation's sleep. It's not my blood, Jackson Pollocking the walls, not my cries ricocheting off the night light, not me splashing viscous excuses on piles of landfilled slop. When blades are shaped like runaway brides, it's not my mouth gulping them, not my asshole shitting out environmental catastrophe, smearing preventable diseases in the milky white way. Watch out, you connoisseurs of malice. My glass eyes, X-ray lies. My snot is day-glow quicksand swallowing the television, the ice agents, bullets and toxic sludge. My heart is another doll, identical to me, but hidden behind my rib cage. She's made of a future without end. Carry her with you like a sack of flour and learn how to parent yourself. Pull her string, and she'll recite the history of empathy in 5 dimensions and colors yet to be named. Don't whisper to her. Don't tell her to smile. Don't tell her to accept things as they are, or she'll bust out from behind the brick wall of my chest, like the Kool-Aid man before he drank the Kool-Aid. So the book I'm working on is called The Last Phone Booth in the World. And I have a bunch of poems with that, either called The Last Phone Booth in the World or some variation. So I'll read 2 of those. The last phone booth, this is called The Last Phone Booth in the World runs for office, but no one knows which one. Vote for me and I will resurrect your childhood. Not the real one with its afternoon soap operas, but the butter lemon cloud one, the one invented to follow you like a poodle. If I win, all our rubber chickens will lay gold, not golden eggs. The sleeveless gown that slips down when you try to jive will sprout ironclad spaghetti straps. All the bombed out history books will grow lips, willing not only to slurp up the past, but to tongue kiss you when the future isn't looking. Vote for me, and I will bring back the color green, houseboat music, recreational hazmat suits, and mild habaneros. You will feel pride in parts of your body that don't even exist. So this is, I don't know how to pronounce it. Guzzle? Guzzle. All right. The last phone booth in the world becomes president, then king. The last phone booth no longer has an inside. It's flat, like the shadow of a tooth without an inside. First, they removed the receiver, then the headset and the cord, erased all traces of the root inside. As the interior dissolved like a stalagmite in a cave, did wires uncross? Was there shouting inside? A silhouette of the past or a handprint of ash? We debate the metaphor for the drought inside. When Superman arrives, he is unable to find his cape. Will he admit to Lois he's freaking out inside? Still, flashes gild the black glass. Some say they're relieved. There's less crowding inside. Now we play telephone with paper cups and string, pretend not to miss the loud inside. So now I will move on to this book, which came out in the fall. They're all prose poems about the internet, sort of I'm sort of like an old person, Generation X. So I, remember life before the internet, and I'm of the age in which I fell in love with the internet. I still kind of love the internet, even though I know it's horrible and I know it destroyed democracy. So the book is kind of like that journey from falling in love with the internet and still feeling in love with the internet, but then watching everything that has happened. And throughout, there's section breaks that are memes. So I thought I would just start by showing some of these memes. This one says, it's still a language if no one understands it. And then, here we go. And then the next one, in my past life, I was only 57% data. And then liquid is always both tenor and vehicle. And then this one is the future leaks into the past. And then this was like starts like a section about film, which I'll read from later. And this is not a limit, but a frame. That's my friend's cat. A lot of these are public domain, but this one's my friend's cat. And this one is, if my eyes are actually windows, I'm happy to draw the blinds. And that's it. Okay. I'll show a video later. Okay. Just gonna read some poems. Are you the invisible song that was playing? To wear a blindfold in the algorithmic state, one must trust that the crowd is closer to a mosh pit than an ocean. One morning, your glass of orange juice is replaced by a beacon of sunlight. And from then on, the square of sadness you carry in your pocket feels heavier. When I was a data point, I posted to a forum a question about the effects of perimenopause. And when the answers came back, I trembled in their presence. My love of the internet was like my love of the city. In each, I wandered underground, smelling of pomegranates and hemorrhoid cream. Yesterday, on the subway, I overheard a woman with a voice like a cartoon parrot complaining of her Macy's coworker's purchase of a thong for clubbing. The picture showed just what it is, a sack for your dick and balls. These 6 emojis explain your life right now. I know how to wrap myself in other people's mishigas. All morning, I read about the woman from Louisiana who can't stop her son from hiding under the bed, a man in South Korea learning to fish in a hotel bathtub, a child across town who swallowed a whole marshmallow shaped like the Guggenheim. I take screenshots of these strangers' problems and blend them into a banana kale smoothie, drink it from a wine glass with my naked ass deeply sunk in a silk pillow. Afterward, my body is a pink cloud with winged sneakers. I hover above the data, rain down gossip on other people's pain. This is a kind of freedom, but also what? A kind of tragic happiness like that cowboy who thinks he can lasso transcendence and tie it to his belt buckle? Or like that photo of the lake on fire your student posted as their grinder pic, or at least claimed he did. Like everything else, you'll never actually know. Data mind. Data eats the edges off our temporary selves, and we emerge with our skin tags zapped, our missing leg hair a bridge between infanthood and now. Here, people work and sleep with their feet buried beneath expense reports and Nerf bananas. We plunder, jangle unfastened words, and yell skedaddle to the frog-masked ghosts. Money disappears and reappears as language then glass. In the shadow cast by a giant clown nose, a crowd gathers to argue. It's not your fault if you don't like that your girlfriend wears her snorkel gear to happy hour. You should admit that you accidentally ate your stepdaughter's marzipan frankfurter. 53 is too old to dress ironically like a grandma. I crawl deeper into the rattling and build a nest out of strands of ticker tape and floss. Rainbow sprinkles cascade onto a cake made of just rainbow sprinkles. Teardrops morph into gifts, crocodiles weeping in clawfoot tubs. How it started, how it's going. I was reading a blog, trying to find a recipe for a lentil stew, but the story about the writer's stepdaughter's missing slipper went on for so long that by the time I arrived at the ingredient list, the building our apartment is in had been sold and resold and sold again. And even worse, our kitchen had been replaced with a digital oven that turned all ingredients into different flavors of miniature muffins. Tofu piccata muffins, charcoal fondue muffins, hillbilly elegy muffins, death metal NFT muffins, raspberry nepo baby marble dildo muffins. One day, I threw a muffin at the moon, and to my surprise, the moon threw a muffin back. I told everyone in my activist Slack feed that this was a new kind of radical action, made more potent by its engagement in celestial intersectionality. Soon we were a whole movement of revolutionary bakers, a federation of militant muffin throwers designed to augment anti-capitalist baking with celestial praxis. Who could have known the muffins had other plans? Okay, so I have the section of the poem where it's like remixing films, and this is all images in the video from Close Encounters of the Third Kind that I stole. Like I took my cell phone and filmed the film on my, from the TV. So. Close Encounters of the 21st Kind. When the cursor blinks, when it appears and disappears, do I too disappear? Do I collapse into another universe where the edges of sharp objects bleed into music? Is the feeling of falling into a beloved's arms forgotten, or have I just substituted one mode of sensation for another, the way connecting our brains with filaments replace the landline, or the way chatter replaces silence if one spends too much time alone? It's possible that each night when I put my sleep apnea mask on and unscrew the light bulbs from the fixtures, it's not the claws of the 20th century I hear scurrying through the ceiling, but a future version of myself. Does this version still need weekly sex or poppy seed flagels with locks? Is she happy just being a sort of antimatter matter? A circle with a big nose strapped to it? A screen with a pair of Groucho mustache glasses? A pillow? If beds are more comfortable when repurposed as satellites circling the moon, when the aliens supersede us, will we mind? I've heard everyone's teeth look better surrounded by green. So this is part of the film section. I'm gonna just do this, see what people want to hear. So I've got poems on the Matrix, the Warriors, Something Wild, Orpheus, Breakfast Club, Sliding Doors, My Man Godfrey, Dinner at 8, or Singing in the Rain. What do you guys want to hear? Okay. Poetry crowd. Dataverse. My hands in long white gloves slip through the monitor's watery screen, and I become the princess of death in Cocteau's Orphe. Are those my lungs floating, or two fossilized Twinkies salvaged from a previous millennium's deep ocean fridge? Time, a marble in a broken Rube Goldberg machine, wobbles, jerking both backwards and forward. The ruins of a city fall inward, and then back towards the dead. What sadness I harbored for the loss of the planet I replace with a crying face emoji. The anger I meant to direct at the oligarchs becomes the word oligarchs, written in flashing Comic Sans. Orpheus, you claimed you were my companion in darkness, but it turns out you were just another so-called lyric peddler, your face too symmetrical to be any use as a disorientation mechanism, your language too lovely to blow up the bank. I take off all my clothes, only to find more clothing replicating underneath. Let's just read two more. Taxonomy. Despite the apocalyptic matterscape, knives slice open the quandary. Tufted, a thumb-sized cave with God-sized stalagmites, quivering inside. Here becomes I, becomes we, the color of eye whites at midnight, the underside of a knee. Does this mean we are immune to the seduction of sunlight on a patio table, free from the starlight's hagiography, the cell phone's quacking ring? Okay. The future, this is the last one. Or maybe I'll just read the last poem of the book instead. I'll just read the last poem of the book and call it a day. Data mind. The joke that replaced our democracy kept waiting for the laugh track to return. I tried to recalibrate my response, tried to say, no thank you, without turning off the lights. What misery was left, I swept up, hid away in a cracked jar. I cried out, please bring me your cheese fries, longing to be free. I tried again. I chanted now, I called out when. All the clocks in the underground supermarket struck the same mistake twice. The clown shoes grew a city on their nose. The locks picked themselves. The radio swallowed the television, which swallowed an old hunk of cheese. What I thought was my childhood wore a Groucho Marx mustache on her chest. The joke tap danced on the wall. The wall tap danced on the joke. I clapped my hands together as hard as I could, but I couldn't make anything stop.
Thanks, Joanna. Elaine Equi's latest book is Out of the Blank. Her other books include Voiceover, which won the San Francisco State Poetry Award, Ripple Effect, New and Selected Poems, which was a finalist for the LA Times Book Award, and on the short list for the Griffin Poetry Prize. Widely published and anthologized, her work has appeared in American Poetry Review, Brooklyn Rail, Big Other, The Nation, The New Yorker, and many other journals. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Elaine Equi.
Hi. This room is just so cozy. I love this room, I have to say. Thank you to everyone at Poets House for having me back. Is the sound okay? It's good? And thank you all for coming. definitely. I'm very excited to see so many, all of you. I'm excited to see all of you. So I'm going to read mostly from my book, Out of the Blank, and then I'll read a few new ones at the end. And this first poem is a very different kind of day than today. It was a very beautiful day, a very sunny day. This is called I Saw Delight. And that line is actually a line, it's a one-line poem by Robert Creeley. That's the whole poem. I Saw Delight. And the title of the poem is an homage to Hank Williams, because Hank Williams is famous for that song, I Saw the Light. So Creeley turned it into I Saw Delight. And it was on a bumper sticker. It was great. This is I Saw Delight. I walked straight into the day's diamond mine, stuffing my eyes with as much dazzle as would fit in the back pockets of my brain and the dingy tote bag of my body. The shadows were dark and luxurious beneath silver trestles of light. I saw a woman carrying the trophy of a gold balloon, letting it bounce lightly above her head, her thoughts golden. Someone else was walking a diamond dog. Each of its hairs was polished to perfection. From every object, prisms of paths opened. Where did they all lead? Why would anyone want to be any place but here? This is the title poem from the book. It's Out of the Blank. It's admittedly a kind of an odd title. Sometimes people say, what's the name of your book? And I say, Out of the Blank. And they give you a very blank look. What? But it really did come to me out of the blank, kind of just appeared. And then the poem came with it. So I said, good, I'll go with that. Out of the blank. We waited for word to arrive. Oh, and you should know I was having a hard time writing. That's why I was waiting for word to arrive. We waited for word to arrive like a messiah in a stagecoach or a sheriff riding a thundercloud. But she came without a name, a sheer barely there-ness, teaching us first to hum the song of the game show. Essentially, nothing changed, only now it seemed more colorful and easily divided into categories, more fun. Suddenly, everyone took up a hobby. Mine is getting in touch with my antediluvian self, my inner reptile. Fire and tools are still a long way off, and language, well, who's to say we haven't been speaking it all along? This poem is called Lorca's Guitar. I did see Lorca's Guitar. It was on display at a show at the New York Public Library. And it had all kinds of Lorca postcards and drawings and letters. And I love Lorca, so I had to write a poem about his guitar. It was very exciting to see it. I saw it on display, the case lined with red velvet, like part of his body, his voice, or the companion of his voice, laid out in an open casket, sealed within a glass box. It was a small instrument, almost a ukulele, the skiff that carried him across the lake of deep song. I stood before it, listened, and heard nothing. No wind in the olive trees, wind in the mountains. I thought it looked homesick, as the poet himself had been homesick in New York. I hope there is a museum guard, some shy boy who comes when no one is around and plays it. This is a kind of a silly list poem, and the idea is to use words that begin with the letter V in every line. It's called Nature Abhors a Vacuum Cleaner. Verlaine is great, but I prefer Vallejo. Vespers is a lovely time of day. I would describe myself as vibrantly vague. Being a Vestal virgin is a vocation, not a career. Vampires have always vacationed in Venice. On the veranda, Vincent and Vivian sipped vermouth. Under the viaduct, vagabonds smoked weed. The Visigoths would certainly vandalize, but the Vandals were not Visigoths. Bobby Vinton was known as the Polish Prince, Mel Torme as the Velvet Fog. Vicky is so vegan, she even feeds her Venus flytrap veggie burgers. The verdict is in. Vests are on the verge of making a big comeback. Everybody, strike a pose and vogue, vogue, vogue. This is another vampire reference. I don't wish to be a vampire. I don't wish to be a vampire with centuries of memory stored in a youthful body. It is or could be such a pleasure, if we didn't fear it so much, to get old and indulge in subversive acts of dawdling, withering, forgetting with impunity. Letting go of ambition served too long, its bittersweet ligatures finally breaking down and dissolving. While others feverishly train body and brain in gyms, let me cultivate the corpse flower. Listen to it like a radio in a small room, quietly playing its hypnotic, melodic overture of decomposition. This is a poem about my father. It's called In Memoriam. I enjoy filling the ice cube tray, holding it under the tap, moving it slightly left or right to ensure each cube is created more or less equally. I know machines would gladly do it for me, but I prefer to do it manually. Tucking the tray into the freezer, anticipating tomorrow's first cold drink. The rattle of ice in a glass is a happy sound that reminds me of my father fixing a triple vodka martini. Whenever we heard it, we knew he was home. This is another kind of autobiographical poem. This is Three Kitchens, and my family used to own a restaurant when I was young. Three kitchens nestle inside each other like Russian dolls. First comes the pantry, where the child learns to read the calendar and practice stirring with ladles and spoons. Next is the family kitchen, where the family seldom gathers. It is like the concession stand of a nearly empty movie theater late in the afternoon. Third is the restaurant's loud kitchen of many hands banging pots and pans, where the angry chef curses the potatoes and curses the customers, and the dishwasher like a dragon exhales clouds of steam. Three different kitchens, three different hungers, eating together, chewing slowly, each one swallowed by the next. My father was the angry chef who hadn't had his triple vodka martini yet. This is a poem about maple syrup, one of my favorite things, maple. Leave me alone with a jug of this syrup, and who knows what maple mayhem I'll get into. Once someone asked me for my favorite word. I wanted to say malice, but that sounded too mean, so I gave them maple. It did the trick. Totally threw them off the scent of my aggression. But I honestly do love maple, with its high-pitched sweetness so piercing, only a dog can hear it. The taste speaks to some darkness deep in my soul, where a sleepwalker stands bathed in the light of an open refrigerator, swigging the sticky liquid like bourbon straight from the bottle. I'm drinking the blood, she chants. I am drinking the blood of the forest. Do you want to read that? No. This is a poem that's dedicated to Tony Simon, who's here. It's called The Witch's Open House. And Tony is a visual artist and a writer, and also channels spirits and talks to spirits. The witch's open house. It is very airy, has no walls, no roof, no door. There are columns of stones that rise like smoke and stand precariously, but never fall. These stones, which may once have been birds, are easy to animate and rearrange to make stone tables and stone chairs. It is an energy field, a cape of space. Many may pass and not know it's there. This is the last one I'm going to read from the book, and then I have a couple of new ones. This is a dream poem called My Name is Snow. She wanted to meet someone in the coffee shop of the motel. I know because I was her. But when passed through the sieve of memory, I became someone looking for her. No one remembered having seen her. The coffee shop had closed years ago and was now a fancy restaurant serving brunch. I drove to different parts of the city. I visited a few monuments and took some photos. At last, I returned to the place where the coffee shop would have been, and there it was. Someone told me I had just missed her. She had been there waiting, but had gone home. I went to her house and found her there, just as they said. Who are you? She asked. My name is Snow, I said, and then I melted. Okay, and a couple of new ones. This one also has melting. Wind chimes in the glass mountains. Wind chimes in the glass mountains, bestowing a calm but giddy effervescence, a silver affluence on the after snow of the afternoon, where Stevens counts his blackbirds, and the voices of the twin sopranos scale new heights, melting our cold coal hearts like lumps of sugar in hot tea. Forgiven, all is forgiving. Even the Disney princess in her glass coffin opens an eye to shed a frozen tear. This is a poem about a photographer, Vivian Meyer, whose work I like very much. She was kind of like a pioneer of street photography, and she lived in Chicago and worked as a nanny all of her life. And when she wasn't working as a nanny, she roamed around the streets and took thousands and thousands of photographs, but she never really published them. And so after she died, kind of like Emily Dickinson with all the poems, after she died, there was a trunk of all these negatives, and fortunately someone who got the trunk and opened it knew they had something really amazing. So her reputation has grown and grown. And there's a really good documentary on her, and this particular poem is actually just an image of hers. It's untitled Vivian Meyer. Who can resist a chorus of empty bottles, amber, topaz, green, on a flea market tray? Not Vivian Meyer. That's her reflection hovering over them, camera raised, deliberately catching herself in the act of looking and framing it in a small adjacent mirror. She is looking at the bottles, but reversed in the photo, she appears to be looking at us with a certain suspicious uncertainty. Like Hitchcock, she often made cameo appearances in her photos, would take self-portraits in an era before selfies of her shadow on a wall. There was something democratic about her willingness to place herself among the things she saw, be just another element in the picture. Perhaps there was also a bit of assertiveness, the desire not just to look, but also one day to be seen. This is called Ghosts and Garbage. Whenever I take out the garbage, I look for ghosts. Tiptoeing out of my apartment, hefty bag in hand, I scan the hall, hoping to spot one. But if I leave my apartment to get the mail or meet a friend or for any other reason, ghosts never cross my mind. Perhaps the act of discarding things, which, by the way, I love to do, triggers thoughts of mortality in me. Or maybe there is a certain guilt attached to the pleasure I take in throwing things away, unceremoniously dumping them down the chute so they land like a corpse with a thud. Sometimes a fly breezes by, or the light above the tall and short bin flickers, but no ghosts arrive. What's gone is gone. The only haunting thing is a gentle but persistent admonishment to recycle. And the last poem I'm going to read is a kind of a collaboration with Joanna Fuhrman. It was a collaboration where she didn't know until afterwards. What I did is she had, Joanna is great for coming up with all kinds of crazy prompts to get you to write poems, wonderful prompts. And so I remember a long time ago, she typed all of the questions in one of her books. And she handed it out and said, you could answer as many questions, one or as many as you want. So I answered one and I got a poem that I liked. And I thought, oh, that was great. And then a long time after that, I was having a lot of trouble again writing. So I thought, oh, Joanna, she has good prompts. Let me see. So I took her book, Data Mine, and I went through it and I took all the questions in this poem out of it. And then I answered them. So it's sort of like a head start on the Q&A. And all of the questions that you hear are Joanna's questions. Okay, and the title is hers because it's a question. Can you see it too? And the poem is dedicated to Joanna. Can you see it too? You mean the what's behind? The cloud behind the brick? The moon behind the cloud? The rose behind the risen? I think so. A glimpse. Sometimes. It's not quite invisible, just covered over with animal print thought patterns. Can the ass of the past sprout fangs? It can, and often does. But even if it charges, it will be extinct before it reaches you. Did you think a different sort of magic was possible? I did. Then I didn't. Now I do again. For now. I'm realistic about magic, but I'm not a magical realist. Why undo a why? You should never try to undo the daisy chain of why. Any 2-year-old knows that. Where do the doctors go when the X-ray convention gets canceled? They go to X-rated movies and hot wing buffets, do the best drugs. Doctors see no good reason to follow their own advice. What is the opposite of a scar? A mirror. A mirror looks after a scar and polishes it. It is a locket in which to hold and behold it again. What monster fits best in a fur purse? That depends on the size of the purse and the person asking. Thank you.
I was so fascinated by Elaine wrote a poem of Violet Myers, was it? That Violet, I forgot her name already. So Vivian Myers, about like a artist that just created, but never really put her work out. And then I was thinking that, you know, Carl wrote a book on Darger, who wrote endless 1,000-page novels and did all kinds of art, but then just left it in his. I wonder if that's some kind of Chicago.
A complex.
I know an idea that you create a whole fantasy. You're so involved in creating a fantasy world. I mean, not that you do this, but a fantasy world that it just engulfs just her life so much that you don't care about it, the outside world knowing about it or not.
I like that idea. I mean, that makes me think I need to have more of a fantasy life so that I don't care at all about the outside world. I care like far too much, but a Chicago thing?
It's cold there, so.
I don't necessarily know that it's particular to Chicago. It just seems like there are always people who don't particularly they aren't doing it for the reception. They aren't doing it for the acclaim. They aren't doing it for the recognition value. And for a long time, I had a hard time even understanding that. I mean, I think some people who would say, I write for myself. When I was young, I would always say, why would you bother? You know, I write for myself. If I write for myself, I'll just think it. I won't bother to write it down. But so I never had that sense of I'm doing it for myself. But the longer I've been writing, now I definitely understand that feeling of doing it for yourself. So maybe it comes. Some people have it more naturally. What do you think about doing it for yourself as opposed to?
I mean, I feel like there's maybe some in between, like, because you probably show everything to Jerome, so it's like he's kind of part of yourself. Like you always have a built-in audience.
That's true.
I mean, I guess I feel like publishing is one thing, but probably what matters more is like showing things to my husband Bob and to my writing group and to my friends. Like that's kind of, it feels like it means more because when you publish, most of the time you don't really hear that much about it. It's like, versus like sharing with people it's a little different.
Do you think that there would be a certain kind of freedom in not sharing your work? Do you know what I mean? Because then you get feedback. It's like you have something that you like and you share it and somebody goes, oh, I don't know about that. So then you're like, well, maybe it's not good. But so if you had something that you just worked and worked and worked without sharing it, do you think there'd be like something cool could happen?
I don't know. It would feel like unfinished, I guess, if you never shared it. It would just feel like, I don't know. There's something about like the sharing, I think, that makes it feel like it's in the world more, even if it's just like a friend.
No, I totally agree. But because Jim brought it up, I always think it's a really interesting thing. Somebody who doesn't have that mentality of, always wanting to send their work out or hear it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're trying to communicate per se, but there is something about feeling like your inner life can manifest outside of yourself that's kind of exciting.
No, this is for both people. There's a poet, which you may not know, Kirill Medvedev, I think, the Russian poet, but he was, and he said that, see, the poets that are most interesting, what they're doing, he says, it's not that they write for themselves, and it's not that they express things. They want to find an audience because their poems, only certain people will really get those poems, and they'll create a new group of people by writing poems. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like you find your tribe. But I also feel like, because of poetry, I've become friends with people because I love their work. Like I knew your work way before I knew you. I knew David Shapiro's work way before I knew him. I was just a fan. And then we became friends. So, yeah, definitely.
I think it's interesting the way scenes kind of form around. I haven't seen it for a while, but scenes form around different poetry groups.
Yeah. Now I guess things are different because people are, I mean, we're just older, so people are at home more. Although, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Kim?
Here, sorry. Just do it.
This is not a question, I guess it's more an observation, that each of you had poems about the self peeling away from itself or splitting from itself or observing itself. In fact, I think each of you had several poems. Maybe Elaine had one specifically and then others that evoked that. And Joanna maybe had a few more, but I don't know. Is that anything that you recognize? Is that new? Not new? I don't know.
I think that's been something that I've been interested in forever. Like I remember when I was a freshman in college reading that I took like a feminist autobiography class and I don't think we read it for class, but I just read that Alicia Ostreicher essay about like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but the idea was that like if you were a feminist poet, you would you'd have your authentic self that would be created through the poem. And I was like, I don't really, I don't know if I really want to like find my true authentic self through my poetry. I'm more interested in polyvocal, creations of self. And I remember I wrote, this was 1991, so I don't even know how many how many books Kamiko Pon had written though, and I think maybe only two. But I remember I wrote about Kamiko's work, and I wrote about the poet Lee Upton and someone else. I'm trying to remember, but it was like, yeah, so it was like this sort of a different way of thinking about feminism, like trying to break away from that 60s idea of authenticity.
I think I like to get lost in a subject. I'm the opposite. I like to find a subject and then find myself by getting lost in that subject. Like I like to write a lot of poems about objects, but I'm not really, I mean, I am writing about objects, but I'm obviously just projecting myself into all these different objects. And it's, so that's how I think myself goes into things.
This was a great reading. I really enjoyed it. I'm always interested in the revision process of poets, and both of you are wildly inventive. I don't always know where the poem is going to go, and I wonder, how do you, in the revision process, which sometimes has a more rational mind attached to it, how do you make sure that you're not kind of combing out all of the knots and static, which are part of the real genius of the poem? You know what I mean? How do you know if, I feel like for both of you, you could go too far.
I would say that I don't have a particularly rational revision project.
Good.
I just am completely insane when I revise, just like when I'm writing the poems.
Okay.
I think I'm led a lot by sound. I do like what you're saying about static and leaving things in, but I'm also not even so much meaning, really by sound. If something sounds good, then I'm like, okay, good. Or if it doesn't sound good, then I'm taking it out. So it's sort of intuitive and instinctual and a lot by ear.
And do you have a different principle, Joanna?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, do you feel like though when you revise, you're just trying to get the sound kind of to be more active or more alive or something?
I think it's like you say it aloud to yourself, or you imagine reading it aloud, and then if it's I don't know what, something happens and you can't read it, then you're like, no, I better rethink that.
Yeah, I literally read it to myself aloud a lot.
Yeah, it's good. That's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's why I can't understand this writing in coffee shops thing. I'm like, no, I need, I need my space. But I think for me, a lot of times I come into like if I know a poem isn't working, it feels like it's claustrophobic or it's not developed or it's not moving enough. And then I think that I know how to fix it and I usually don't. And then I just kind of keep playing until I discover something that feels like a way forward.
Don't you sometimes do something completely different, like watch a video, or I don't know, go for a walk or something, and then go back to the poem,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then somehow incorporate that other extra step that you take?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it just takes time, or yeah. Or like for that, the guzzle that I wrote, I had to actually change the middle rhyme because I didn't realize consciously that it was too repetitive, but it was. And then I changed the rhyme, and then, I had to change every line as happens.
I remember you were telling me about a class you were teaching, and you had so many different layers to the writing assignment. It was like, first we're going to watch a video, then we're going to listen to the song, then it was just like, I loved all the different layers that you build into your writing process.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's good to like have tricks to keep yourself from, thinking in your normal way.
Okay.
But even now, I feel like if I get stuck, I like just finding random words. Or just, random images from observation, or which aren't, they're never really random. Oh, yeah, I think you had wait, where's the mic? Oh.
So, what's your process? How do you get started? Do you have special shoes? Do you put on a song? Do you have a special cup of coffee? Are you analog? Do you write in a notebook, or do you use a computer? Do you have like a certain glasses that you wear? Do you have to take a shower first? Like, how do you get started? What's that little light bulb that gets you going every day?
Every day. Whoa, that's a lot. No. I think it depends. I mean, the data mine book, a lot of it I actually did write on my phone, or at least when I started it, I wrote a lot of those poems on my phone, or the beginnings of them in the middle of the night at like 3 a.m. I would wake up and just like write down whatever came into my mind for an hour or so or whatever. And then I would wake up, email them to myself, and just keep working on them and see what happened. But then over time, as the book kind of came together, I started to think more not logically, but a little bit more analytically about what I wanted to do. So for example, I started to write a lot of poems about film. And then I was like, okay, I want to write more poems about film. And then I started to think about what poems I'd want to write about. And sometimes I was able to, and sometimes I wasn't able to. And then I started thinking, oh, this is a book about the internet. Like I had an idea of what the book was sort of about in some bigger sense. And then I started to think about, well, I think that this book is about, the political implications. So then I started to think, okay, I'm going to riff a little bit on like how does thinking about the internet change if you're thinking about it through the lens or in relationship to like gun violence or in relationship to abortion. So that, it's like I can come up with a concept like that. Doesn't mean I'm going to be able to write the poem, but sometimes I was able to. Sometimes it's just an idea. It just sort of depends. You never know.
I like to write in the mornings. Increasingly, just by the time the day is like around past 1 or 2 o'clock, it's like my mind is gone. It's all swallowed up with all kinds of worries and things. So I like the space in the morning when you're still kind of half asleep. And I always write in a notebook. And I'm very particular about colors with notebooks. It's like I like to buy those cheap notebooks that have, like green, blue, red, whatever. And I think sometimes I used to write even in a colored pen, but I don't do that anymore. So I like color. I mean, words don't have color too much, but I like to add some color with the notebook.
I have one more question.
Oh, yeah.
If there was a favorite author or poet that you can meet any period through time, the past or present, and you could sit and chat with them, what would you like to ask them? And what do you think they would think about your writing?
I've already met Elaine, so I don't know.
Now that's hard.
Like Truman Capote, like let's say you had lunch with him.
I mean, I feel like I've met so many of the poets I admire, so I don't know.
But from
And then
any period.
any period.
Any period,
period.
even someone dead, like Edith Wharton or Jane Eyre.
Can it be like a dinner party, like where they say your 3 guests?
Yeah. Who would be your 3 guests at your dinner party that you would love to have, like that's alive or dead?
It'd be cool to meet Mina Loy, I suppose, because then maybe she could like make me a lampshade or something, because I really need some for my new house.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go there. Frank O'Hara. I mean, I have to have Frank O'Hara.
Yeah.
All of us here
But
in
I
this
feel
room
like it would
want
be just
Frank O'Hara.
intimidating to meet Frank O'Hara.
Yeah, but you'd get over it.
Yeah, I would like to meet Jack Spicer, but I guess he was an anti-Semite and didn't really like women.
You could ask him about it.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Tell him.
Like why? Why do you have this feeling? What happened to you? Was there an experience?
Yeah. Oh, that's Goblin.
He has a question too.
Charles Baudelaire, too. Charles Baudelaire. I would ask him if he really believed in the devil, because he has a bunch of poems about devils.
Has any of you ever been threatened like Salman Rushdie, where he got stabbed in the eye?
Oh, God, no. It's never happened.
No, I don't think people care enough about poetry to threaten us.
I think we'll have one last question.
I don't know if this will honor the last place, but I'm curious since, Elaine, you were talking about liking to throw things out. Do you save all your papers over time, or do you throw
Oh,
out?
I throw them away.
And since I assume you're not as needy of having to discard everything in your life, do you keep all your papers?
Oh, no. Yeah, I just got rid of tons and tons of notebooks recently. They're mainly just lists.
A collective.
I know. I mean, my notebooks are not that interesting, really. I look through them. They're just like, whatever. I mean, I write drafts a lot on the computer too. It's like my very early drafts are sometimes in notebooks, but then I move things to the computer. So I have a lot of drafts just on the computer. I don't think I need my lists of what I did in class or, notes to myself or to-do lists.
Sometimes dream notebooks are good. I like
Yeah.
old dream notebooks because it's fun. You can look at an old dream notebook and that dream comes back to you so fast.
Yeah, I do like that. Sometimes I tried to write those on my phone too, but it wasn't. I feel like whenever I start a project of recording my dreams, I don't last very long. Even though I do like, remembering my dreams and writing about my dreams, but the pressure of having to do it every time feels like too much.
Someone once gave me a really good trick that I like and told me when you write down your dream, you should name it.
Oh yeah.
And I love doing that. That's what makes me want to keep a dream notebook because it's almost like writing a poem, but you don't feel the same pressure of, is this a good poem or a bad poem? It's like really writing it, but you get to name it.
Yeah, someone just told me that too recently.
I always do. All my dreams
Yeah.
are named.
Yeah. Title
A
it.
title. My dream Louise. Yes, that would be good too. I like that. It depends on, the
I forgot.
dream.
Someone told, it was when I was in California just a few months ago, then I forgot, but I was going to do it. And then, I'm going to start doing it now.
It's good.
But also, I think I usually wake up and I have 5 dreams. And it's there's so many that if I started writing them all down, that would be my whole day.
Thank you all very much for coming. Should we have a round of applause?
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.